Someone is about to admit they've been in love with you since you stopped trying to make them love you. And the strange part is, you may have no idea it's coming. There are moments in life that arrive quietly. No dramatic music, no grand announcement, no warning, just a conversation that feels ordinary, until a single sentence changes everything. Maybe you've experienced something like this before. You spend months, or even years, believing someone sees you only as a friend, a colleague, a familiar face. You never imagine that behind their calm smile, behind the casual messages, behind the comfortable conversations, a secret has been growing. A feeling they never found the courage to name. And then one day, something shifts, not in them, in you. Because the strange truth about love is that it often reveals itself when the person being loved finally stops looking for validation, when they become comfortable standing alone, when they stop chasing, when they stop performing, when they become fully themselves. Carl Jung once wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And perhaps that is why some confessions arrive so late. Not because the love is new, but because the person finally sees you clearly. In this video, we will explore the hidden psychological signs that someone has been carrying feelings for you far longer than you realize. We will uncover why certain people stay silent for years, why distance often strengthens hidden affection, why your transformation may have awakened emotions they could no longer suppress. And by the end, you may recognize that someone in your own life is standing on the edge of a confession they have rehearsed 1,000 times in their mind. A confession that could change everything. Part 1. They have been watching your journey in silence. The people who love us the deepest are often the ones who speak the least. Most people assume love announces itself. But hidden love behaves differently. Hidden love observes. It watches. It remembers. Think about the people in your life. Most individuals forget details quickly. They forget conversations. They forget dreams you mentioned. They forget fears you revealed months ago. Yet there is sometimes one person who remembers everything. Not because they possess a perfect memory, but because emotionally invested people pay attention differently. A person who secretly loves you often becomes a quiet historian of your life. They remember the city you wanted to visit, the book that changed your perspective, the difficult period nobody else noticed, the joke you made 2 years ago. And perhaps you never questioned why, because it felt normal. But psychologically, attention is one of the purest forms of affection. People focus on what matters to them, and when someone consistently notices details others overlook, there is usually a deeper emotional reason beneath the surface. The philosopher Simone Weil once said, "Attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity." Love often begins there, not with passion, not with romance, but with attention, the kind of attention that quietly studies another person's existence. What's fascinating is that these individuals often stay silent because they fear losing access to your life. A confession carries risk. Silence feels safer. If they reveal their feelings, everything could change. The friendship could disappear, the connection could become uncomfortable. So they choose observation over expression. Year after year, they become spectators of your growth, watching your victories, feeling your heartbreaks, celebrating your happiness from a distance.
And eventually, something unexpected happens. The feelings become too large for silence. The emotional weight grows heavier than the fear, and the person who has spent years watching your story begins to imagine becoming part of it. That is often the first sign that a confession is approaching. Not sudden interest, not dramatic gestures, but a long history of quiet attention that suddenly seeks a voice.
Part 2. They fell deeply in love when you stopped chasing approval. The moment you stopped trying to be chosen may have been the moment they finally saw your true value. There is a strange law that governs human attraction. The more desperately someone seeks validation, the less visible they become. But the moment they stop seeking it, something changes. Their presence becomes magnetic. Their energy becomes calm. Their value becomes undeniable. Perhaps there was a time when you wanted everyone to like you. You carefully adjusted your personality. You worried about saying the wrong thing. You measured your worth through other people's reactions. Most people have lived through this phase. the exhausting pursuit of being enough. But then life teaches its lessons. Heartbreak, disappointment, betrayal, loss, and slowly, something inside begins to mature. You stop trying to convince people of your worth. You stop chasing attention. You stop forcing connections. You stop begging to be understood. And in that transformation, a new version of you emerges, a version that is quieter, stronger, more authentic. Ironically, this is often the exact moment when someone who has secretly loved you feels their emotions intensify, because they are no longer looking at a performance. They are finally seeing the real person beneath it. Carl Jung believed that much of human suffering comes from wearing masks designed to earn acceptance, but genuine connection becomes possible only when those masks begin to fall away. And this applies to love more than almost anything else. Many hidden admirers spend years observing someone who is still searching for themselves. Then one day, they witness a change. You become comfortable being alone. You become comfortable disappointing people. You become comfortable speaking your truth, and suddenly, what was once admiration becomes something much deeper. Because confidence without arrogance is rare. Authenticity without performance is rare. Peace without external validation is rare. The secret admirer recognizes this, perhaps before you do. They notice the way you walk differently, the way you speak differently, the way you no longer shrink yourself to fit into rooms that were never built for you. And this creates an internal conflict, because the person they quietly loved has become even more difficult to ignore. The feelings they once controlled now demand expression. The confession begins to form long before the words are spoken. It starts as a realization that they are no longer afraid of losing the fantasy. They are afraid of losing the chance, and there is a profound difference between the two. Many people lose love because they wait for certainty, but certainty never arrives. Only courage does, and somewhere in your life, someone may be gathering that courage right now. Watching your transformation, watching your growth, watching you become the person you were always meant to be, and realizing that silence is no longer enough. Because some emotions eventually reach a point where remaining hidden hurts more than being rejected. That is when confessions are born. Part 3. They have already confessed to you 1,000 times in their mind. Long before a person admits their love out loud, they have usually lived through that conversation countless times in silence. Before we move to the final chapter, sit with this idea for a moment. The hardest confessions are not spoken suddenly, they are spoken after years of internal battles. Writing. Most people imagine that love confessions happen impulsively, a rush of emotion, a spontaneous moment, a sudden declaration. But psychology tells a different story. The deepest confessions are often rehearsed for months, or even years. Somewhere in the privacy of their thoughts, they have already imagined every possible outcome. They have imagined you smiling. They have imagined you saying yes. They have imagined you walking away. They have imagined losing everything, and yet they continue returning to the same conversation again and again and again. Because the human heart has a peculiar relationship with hope. Hope refuses to die quietly. It keeps creating possibilities. It keeps searching for openings. It keeps whispering, maybe this is the right time. Maybe they feel the same way. Maybe they have noticed. Maybe this story could become real. The philosopher Søren Kierkegaard once observed that anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. And nowhere is that more visible than in love, because confession creates possibility. Possibility creates uncertainty, and uncertainty terrifies people. This is why someone who secretly loves you may begin behaving differently before they ever reveal their feelings. Not dramatically, subtly, you may notice them becoming more present, more attentive, more curious about your future plans. They ask questions they never asked before, not because they need information, but because they are unconsciously trying to determine whether there is space for them in your future. They become interested in details that once seemed irrelevant. Your goals, your dreams, your vision for your life. Because hidden love eventually stops asking, "Do I love them?" and starts asking, "Could we build something together?" That question changes everything. And when it appears, the confession is often closer than anyone realizes. You may even notice moments of hesitation. Moments where they seem about to say something important, only to change the subject. Moments where silence lingers just a little too long. Moments where their eyes reveal more than their words. These are not accidents. These are emotional crossroads. The heart moving faster than courage can follow, and every unfinished sentence becomes evidence of an internal struggle. A struggle between safety and vulnerability, between silence and truth, between protecting the connection and risking it. But eventually, something remarkable happens. The weight of unsaid feelings becomes unbearable. The person realizes they are no longer protecting themselves. They are imprisoning themselves. And once that realization arrives, a confession becomes less a choice and more a necessity. Not because they expect success, but because truth finally becomes more important than fear. Part 4. The confession comes when you have stopped waiting for it. The greatest irony of hidden love is that it often arrives the moment you no longer need it to. Writing. There is a moment that appears again and again in human relationships, a moment so common, yet so mysterious, that it feels almost poetic. The confession comes late, not because the feelings are new, but because the timing is. And timing has always been one of the most misunderstood forces in life. Many people spend years waiting to be chosen, waiting for a message, waiting for clarity, waiting for someone to finally say what they feel. They build entire emotional worlds around anticipation. But eventually, life teaches them something important. The waiting must end. Not because hope is foolish, but because a meaningful life cannot be built around someone else's decision. So they move forward. They focus on their purpose. They heal old wounds. They create new experiences. They learn how to enjoy their own company. And little by little, the person who once longed for a confession becomes someone who no longer depends on one. This is where the story changes, because emotional independence creates a kind of quiet power. You stop chasing outcomes. You stop forcing answers. You stop trying to control the future. And strangely enough, that freedom often creates the conditions for love to emerge. Lao Tzu wrote, "Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. Love follows a similar rhythm. The deepest connections cannot be rushed. They unfold when people are ready to receive them, not merely when they desire them. This is why so many hidden admirers finally speak when they sense that you have become whole without them. Because true love is not attracted to dependency, it is attracted to completeness, not two broken halves desperately searching for rescue, but two complete individuals choosing connection. And perhaps that is what someone has been witnessing all along. Not your perfection, not your achievements, but your evolution. They watched you survive things that could have hardened your heart, yet you remained kind. They watched you experience disappointment, yet you continued moving forward. They watched you lose people, yet you never lost yourself. And somewhere along the way, admiration transformed into love. Then love transformed into certainty, and certainty began searching for courage. The confession that is approaching may not be dramatic. It may not resemble a movie scene. It may arrive through a simple conversation, a quiet message, a sentence spoken with trembling honesty. But do not underestimate the significance of such moments, because behind that single sentence may exist years of silent affection, years of observation, years of hesitation, years of imagined conversations, years of feelings carefully hidden beneath ordinary interactions. And when the truth finally emerges, you often realize something surprising. The confession did not begin on the day it was spoken. It began years earlier, in a glance that lasted too long, in a memory they never forgot, in a concern they never expressed, in a feeling they could never completely silence. That is the hidden story behind many of life's most meaningful connections. Not sudden love, but patient love. Not loud love, but enduring love. Not love that appeared overnight, but love that quietly grew while life was busy happening. So if someone is about to admit they've been in love with you since you became your true self, remember this. The most powerful confessions are rarely about the words themselves. They are about the courage it took to finally speak them. And perhaps the real lesson is this. The right people are not drawn to the version of you that begs to be loved. They are drawn to the version of you that learned how to love life, purpose, and yourself first. Because when you stop chasing validation, You become visible to those who were quietly seeing your worth all along. And sometimes, the love story you thought never existed has been unfolding in silence right in front of you. You simply hadn't heard the final chapter yet. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to reflect. Who in your life remembers the details others forget? Who seems genuinely invested in your growth? Who has remained present through seasons when they had every reason to disappear? Sometimes the answers we seek are hidden in the people we have overlooked, and sometimes the most unexpected confession is not from a stranger. It's from the person who has been quietly carrying your story in their heart for far longer than you ever imagined. Because some love arrives loudly, but the deepest love often arrives after years of silence.